Hey, sports fans, welcome to another Blue Collar Sports Talk. Sit back, grab some popcorn, and enjoy. Matt Rule, smart guy, wishing his boss a happy birthday.
Happy birthday to Trev Alberts.
Coach Rule goes over a couple of things about the team.
Yeah, I think it's a really good opportunity for our guys. I mean, receivers all along have been, hey, who are going to be the guys, right? There's not a lot of returning production. When Marcus was healthy, obviously, when he found out he was going to be healthy, it was really a big thing for us. I think there's a lot of opportunities for some other guys to step up and play, right? So everybody says they want to play as a freshman, but it's really hard to do. And especially in today's day and age where you're so distracted, you have to know how to learn. So, we're giving some young guys, Jalen Lloyd, Jaden Doss are getting some opportunities to go out there and play. And, we'll see where they're at. They're trending in the right direction. But Billy's, a guy who's, unbelievably productive. Alex Bullock's having a really, really good camp. Alex, you guys know how I feel about Alex. And a lot of other guys. So a lot of guys are taking advantage of their moment. So, but that's probably of all the positions. That's where the most questions are right now for us on offense. We kind of know who the guys who played, but that's remains to be seen.
Coach Rule is determined to have a physical offense and defensive line. Coach, I wish you all the best of luck, and I can't wait to see what happens on the field.
I mean, I'd like to be a big physical, offensive line that can do a lot of things, right? At the end of the day, we want to run the ball and stop the run, and we want to protect our quarterback and affect their quarterback. So, we need big, powerful guys up there that are smart and can handle all the looks. And our defense certainly provides a lot of challenges. I mean, they see a different defense on every play. So, they're training and they're coming along.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Blue Collar Sports Talk.
Morning.
James there, Daryl here, and love. I don't know, is it officially fall weather? But I'm loving the cooler temps.
Yeah. And, we were talking last night at work, and that's, somebody said, once it's cooler, start thinking of football and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, as soon as August 1st hits, it could be 108. But as soon as the month of August pops up on my calendar, phone, whatever you want to call it, I'm thinking football right away. Training camp's already been started in July, but August is where things get real. Yeah. And then you hear that stuff from Matt Rule and the first week of practice from Nebraska, and whoo, boy, it can't come fast enough, but I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Speaking of Nebraska and football and fall activities such as football, we have some guys on watch lists for awards. We'll start off with the Ray Guy Award. And Brian, not even going to try our last name. Yeah, what the heck? I'll try it. Brian Buscini is on the Punter Ray Guy Award watch list.
He does got quite the leg. I think the main thing with him would be directional and pinning them down. I'm glad you can boot it 55 yards, but if it goes out the end zone, you went 30 yards.
I agree 87%. If he boots it out the end zone and they can't touch it, they can't run it back for a touchdown.
That is true.
and I say that because the last
Colorado, Michigan State.
However many years that we have allowed people to score after we've kicked it off to them. So another award that we have on another award that a member of our football team is on a watch list for. The award was named after one of our former players, Dave Remington.
Oh.
So that's huge. We have an offensive lineman, Ben Scott, on the watch list for the Remington Award. And that's huge. The guy transferred in. I don't care where he came from, but he transferred in. He was playing for Arizona State. The guy's amazing.
6'5", 300 pounds. Obviously the build you'd want for an offensive lineman. So, junior this year.
And that gets to the clip I put in the opening of the show from Matt Rule. He wants a tough, smart offensive line and defensive line. Yeah. And I hope he gets it.
And he said it. I mean, I know you got a couple more words, but if you have a smart offensive line that can recognize the fronts, I think one of the problems our O-line has had, not that they were weak, but they didn't realize who was coming or who wasn't, or pass off to who or whoever. So if your line calls are, and the guys up there are all listening and they're all smart and know the playbook, man, we're going to notice a huge difference if those linemen can pick it up.
And we have another transfer athletes in Jeff Sims. He is one of 35 quarterbacks that have been named to the Davey O'Brien Award preseason watch list. So we'll see what he does here. He was formerly a Yellow Jacket with Georgia Tech. And in his 23 games, he is at 57.5% completion of all his passes with almost 5,000 yards, 4,400 yards.
Yeah, and I honestly think with this offense, and Georgia Tech, is definitely a different kind of team than Nebraska. I can see him throwing 62 to 65% in this offense, especially with a really strong running game. Chuba's pushing him. Like Matt Rule said, he challenged him. He's made huge strides. And, watching the Nebraska first week video, dude, Chuba looks good. Sims definitely seems to be the starter as of now, but maybe we won't have such a drop-off if Sims misses a game or two.
Either way, I don't think either would be a bad person to have commanding your offense. Looking back again to what Sims did in Georgia Tech, he's had 100-yard rushing games.
Yeah.
So the kid has wheels, and he's had at least 3 300-yard passing games, 9 200-yard passing performances. Even his freshman year, he put up 1,800 yards passing and 19 touchdowns.
Yeah. I love that they got him. Yeah.
Kids' money.
Huge.
Kids' money.
And now, to me, on a far better offense and most bestest in the world, a much better coach team, I think. So I think he's got.
I hope so.
People where they're going to be. Yeah, I don't think he's going to have to run for 1,500 yards this season. I think, shoot a 400 or 500 yards again. Just like we talked with Adrian, earlier this season, was just take that 7 or 8 and get out of bounds. Let's worry about moving chains and not get 35-yard incompletions.
That brings me to an Emmitt Smith quote.
Emmitt.
I may win and I may lose, but I will never be defeated.
There you go.
So let's think about that, guys. And by guys, I mean UNL athletics. Go in, and if you happen to be on the wrong side of the winning, take the lesson. Learn. Go watch some film. I'm not wishing that you lose. I'm hoping we go in there and we knock Minnesota squarely on their butts. I hope we follow that up with a big, 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 big punch in the mouth to Deion Sanders' team in Colorado. I just want to see us win consistently.
So on YouTube, if you guys want to go on YouTube, somebody put together a first week of practice, Nebraska moving into the dorms and all that, right?
Yeah, it was done by by one of the staff here. He's actually a student.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's called a look in, and not IN, just the letter N for Nebraska, obviously. But in there, you have a Cook, the volleyball coach, comes and talks to the team. And that's one of the things he brings up is, talking about the different challenges and you're going to be hit by this and that. And I think Matt Rule might have said it, do you become the victim and you just brew on it and try to worry about it? Or do you own it and beat it and don't let it get you the next time? Do you grow from it and learn from it?
I said this about Scott Frost. Scott, I think you should reach out and see what Cook is doing. You need to surround yourself by winning. And that is exactly what Matt Rule said. He's like, I'm trying to surround these guys by winners, people that consistently win. And he said, that's why we as a team, we're trying to build all this stuff. That's why we're staying in the dorms. We're trying to build a cohesive team, not a one-person only team. And getting the resources you have at this school. Cook is an amazing coach. I don't care what sport, even if it's, okay, yeah, he's a volleyball coach. But the guy's philosophy and what he knows it takes to win, you need to surround yourself with that.
Yeah, and Yeah, well, exactly. When you're hearing it from people that are winning, when you get those people that come and they want to give motivational speaks, but you're like, I don't even know, I don't know who you are. But when you get a guy like Cook that's come in and won and keeps winning, okay, well, I need to hear what this guy has to say because his philosophy or his mindset must be right on.
And it's a dynasty, what we have here at University of Nebraska with volleyball. Terry Pettit, the guy's name is on the volleyball court. It's the Pettit court, right?
Right.
And then he decided, hey, and the school also agreed, let's bring in Cook to continue. And it flawless continuation of a dynasty.
You know what I'm wondering? I wasn't around when Cook came in, or I didn't follow volleyball back then. But how much, because he wasn't the big name on scene when he was picked to take over volleyball for Nebraska.
Really? Okay, anyway,
Right, yeah, but
Go
I'm
ahead.
just saying, I wonder how many people are like, is this the right guy? Are we sure we're going to take over this for Pettit? Like when Osborne moved on, you had to fill it, and you're like, you kind of split the fan base where how much was like, is this the guy? But yeah, if it was, that'd be awesome.
I think it was. He had already made a name for himself, and
Taking a small school to nothing, but he hadn't been at a big school.
he hadn't been at a big school,
Right. That's one thing I'm getting at. He wasn't the Power 5 coaches.
But volleyball's different. You don't have to be at a Power 5.
No, right.
You don't. You have to be able to get the most out of your players, and volleyball's weird to the point where you don't have to be at a Power 5 to depend on recruiting. You don't have to depend on revenue for whatever reason. You just have to have that will to win and the right way to motivate your players. But yeah, I can't wait for football and I can't wait for volleyball to start. Volleyball starts a little bit ahead of football a few days.
Yep. First practice yesterday for volleyball.
Yeah.
They're stretching out their legs. They're going to get in their routines. And just a few weeks away, we're going to be at Memorial Stadium watching football or volleyball before we watch football, which is going to be amazing. I'm so excited for that day.
So the next thing on our list, things that we wanted to talk about was, of course, continuous realignments all over the place, right?
Right.
And now Florida State's getting into the mix. What's going to happen? They're trying to, and I don't blame them. They're trying to get more money. Cal and Stanford look to try and go to ACC. Now that's hit some roadblocks, I've heard.
Yep.
If you look back in history, it's all about money. It's always been about money. It'll continue to be about money. And these evolutions of conferences may possibly never stop. Think about the time when SMU was getting its death penalty, so to speak, and they were part of, I believe, was called the Southwest Conference.
Yep.
And that was 25 years ago. So you had Texas A&M, Rice, SMU, Houston, and it's well known now that a lot of wealthy business leaders were basically payrolling SMU, and then Rice also did the same thing. You had people like Eric Dickerson, Earl Campbell.
Oh, yeah. Just
even Barry Switzer, who was a huge name back in the day as a player.
The pay to play.
Yeah.
Back then, that was originally what it was. And obviously, that's why they got the death penalty. Not only were they paying to play, but they were fixing games. So yeah, it was a big black eye on sports if you go all the way back to the Chicago Black Sox when they fixed the World Series, So it really hurt college football for a while. And unfortunately, they got the death penalty, but it definitely woke up a lot of schools. And now, obviously, they won't ever do that again to a team. But
yeah, thanks to Nil. Yeah, it continually, and again, it revolves around money.
Yeah.
So these teams wanted to win so bad in their conference that they decided, hey, we're going to allow our kids to get paid. We don't care how bad it looks, but we're winning. And they made SMU vacate all those wins. They took away lots and lots of scholarships. I want to say like 45.
Oh, yeah, they decimated the team. It was suspended And yeah,
And that's why they called it the death penalty,
yep.
because they took away so much from them.
Yeah, they were unable to win for 4 or 5 seasons, and it to be where all the other schools took off and they never recovered.
And to have some of those teams at that time leave the Southwest Conference and then go to SEC, they
Yep.
again, they were looking for money. And that's what the teams that so the first dominoes to fall were kind of USC and UCLA. They were the ones that decided, hey, we're going to leave from the Pac-12. We're going to come to the Big Ten.
Right.
And a lot of people have been putting or having issues with Colorado leaving. Oh, they're leaving the Pac-12. That's so bad. They're going to tear it apart. No, they're not the bad guys.
They're the bottom of that conference.
They were the third ones to leave.
Yeah.
And they're going back to a conference that they've already bid in.
Yeah.
And again, it's about money. So the reason they left the Big 12 is because of Texas came in and took a bigger share of the pie from them. Now Texas is leaving and Colorado decides, oh, great, let's go back.
All right.
Texas is gone. Now I think Texas might get an eye-opener when they go to the SEC.
Them and Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, both. Yeah, they're going to be, oh my. Yeah.
Now the other side of this that people have started talking about in the last few days that I've noticed, this focus has switched from football to basketball a little bit. And I think it's a good thing to look at. Where SEC, Big Ten, really two tough conferences in football. Now you switch it, go to basketball, Big 12. And Pac-12 were huge in basketball.
Oh, Pac-12, yeah, fact. Yeah.
And now Big Ten. And then they're talking about if they make bigger conferences, are they going to have to expand the big dance because you're going to have to let in more people from these superpower conferences?
Yeah, I think it's interesting when this realignment starts, everyone, and I guess I can't speak for everyone, the majority of the talk is football, 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 football. They forget that you're not just bringing their football team over, you're bringing all their sports. So the Big Ten is bringing in USC football, UCLA football, obviously Oregon and Washington
Basketball,
football.
baseball, bowling, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I meant basketball.
No, I know. Sorry.
Oregon, Washington basketball, not as top. But those other two, yeah, it's going to be huge for the Big Ten and their basketball programs. Then you work in the other sports. Look at volleyball, what it's going to do for it. But all the realignments, they all concentrate on the football side of things and forget these other sports that they're going to bring into the conference that is going to just make it even better.
And with all this realignment, okay, so with all these teams trying to get more money, what does a UConn do? What does a Gonzaga do? Notre Dame. Notre Dame is interesting in that in basketball, they're in the ACC.
Yep.
In football, they're independent. So with these super conferences, are they going to make them choose or not? Because again, the reason they did that, Notre Dame did that, money. They could get more money being the prize team for NBC.
Right. Well, yeah, and you're not negotiating or splitting money. It's this contract is with this thing. What Notre Dame has to look at or might be forced to joining is because pretty soon when you get these bigger, right now, if you look at it, Big Ten's at 14 teams. You add UCLA, USC, 16 teams, right? They have it separated right now into two divisions within the conference. Then when you add Washington and Oregon, that's going to be 18 teams. There's not a whole lot of out-of-conference games left. So what Notre Dame's going to run into, long story to get there, pretty soon they're going to have problems playing Power 5 schools that they don't already have a contract with, hey, we got this home and away this year, because those Power 5 schools or all these bigger conferences are going to play within each other, and they're going to have one or two out-of-conference games. So if Notre Dame has scheduling conflicts, well, I can't schedule you because you're the same week would be this team or this team. They're going to find themselves in a big bind scheduling-wise. And then when they're trying to compete for a national title, they're like, dude, you played two Power 5 schools and everyone else was small potatoes, So Unfortunately, I don't know if Notre Dame has much of a choice. It will be you got to jump in. And if ACC is starting to I can't say hemorrhage, they're not as bad as the Pac-12, but reading the tea leaves, the Stanford Cows hit a snag, mainly because the money's really not there, those two teams. Your two big dogs with Clemson and I'm not saying big dog Florida State, but Clemson and Florida State wanting to leave. They're going to have to find teams to come in, or people are just start plucking from them also. Their TV deal is decent, but it's quite the drop between the SEC down, Big Ten first, then SEC. Then it's quite a little bit of a drop till you drop down to the ACC, what they're getting per team. So I don't know if Notre Dame goes there. I think the better fit for Notre Dame would obviously be the Big Ten, but they'd have to bring somebody. Because right now they're going to be sitting at 18 teams next year. I believe the Big Ten's target's 20. Next two teams in, I I would like to see Notre Dame in there with the Stanford. Cal doesn't bring much sport-wise as far as like the big sports, baseball, basketball, volleyball, football. I don't really see Cal up in there, but Stanford acts obviously academically they're way up there. They have a very good baseball team. I I think a really strong football team if maybe they got some more revenue coming in. But a Stanford Notre Dame edition for 20, I think that would go well.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out still, where does Oregon State go? Where does Washington State go? Because there are schools that are left behind in all of this. They don't have the size, they don't have the power, or geographically they're in kind of a back area.
So does the Mountain West somehow become a new Power Five if those schools, like you're mentioning, tell the Mountain West, hey, let's just slide over to you, pick us up? Huge build for the Mountain West, right? Because now they're in the talk of the BCS or, the bowl type things. And when you bring in those schools, and who knows, maybe they can help get their own TV deal. But that's just what it came out top of my head right away would be the
Right.
Mountain West right next door. But
I don't know. And that's the crazy thing. I mean, who steps up?
Yep.
It could be, this is going to sound weird, it could be the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
You don't know what conference is going to decide to pick them up.
But we got to believe those teams, your Oregon State, Washington State, Cal, Stanford, they're on the phone, right? Every day since Monday morning with the conference, talking to different people, at least maybe their board of directives. Hey, where do we want to go? Where do we want to shop? How long would you want to wait out this Pac-12? I don't know how many teams you have to have in to keep a conference, but it is dwindling very, very quickly to where you're going to have to be called the Pac-6 pretty soon. Or, hey, the six-pack.
So, okay. So thinking about that, how many teams do you have to have? So in a conference, and you have ACC, Big 12, Big 10. You have the MAC, you have Mountain West, Pac-12, SEC, Sun Belt. Do you drop a division? What's going to happen? I mean,
Yeah.
all of a sudden now we're looking at, well, presidents all get together, university presidents. Okay, I guess we're going to have to go to a big 3 or 4 conference, and whether we like it or not, we're going to have to all align, and we'll have to figure out scheduling, and rivalries are out the window.
Yep. Yeah, of the 12 of the Pac-12 we're talking about, 7 are gone. Arizona State, and Colorado all jumped to the Big 12. Then the Big 10 took Oregon, Washington, UCLA, and USC. There's 7 teams out the door. That leaves you with the little 5. I don't mean little 5 teams, but that only leaves you 5 teams with Utah and probably now Oregon State / Stanford as the top dogs left. I don't want to sell Washington State short, but Utah obviously makes a lot of noise, made a lot of noise last year, and Oregon State's same. So, yeah, you got 5 teams left in that conference. So, and they're trying to get a TV deal. How do you sell that? Like, oh, no, we're going to get teams. Well, who are you going to get? Do you go after the Boise's, the BYU's, and try to bring them in?
There's no way BYU leaves Big 12.
It depends on the selling point. I know I agree with you, but I'm just saying you got to pitch it to something.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You do have to pitch it to something. So that's why I think when I mentioned the Conference USA's, the Mid-America Conference, you mentioned Mountain West, all those, and then I also mentioned Sun Belt, all of those conferences, dude, collectively, they need to come together. How do we get a bigger slice of the pie? How about you come over here? You be the centerpiece and we'll be better? I don't know.
So
But
in
again, go ahead.
This whole scheme of talking, I'm under the impression this is totally out of NCAA's hands, right? NCAA, the runner of college football, college sports, NCAA sports, they don't have anything to do with this realignment. They can't tell teams what they can and can't do. This is wide open for them, teams to take care of, schools to take care of themselves, to go where they want to go between them and the state.
I say to a certain degree, that's probably 100% true, yeah.
So do you think it's better? Do you think college sports is looking at maybe it's better to have 3 big conferences, or is it better to have 5 like we have now, to have Power 5 as far as like you're saying with the tournaments, the big dances, the playoffs, the different way they put teams in? I mean, even baseball, you have a selection committee. The basketball, you have selection of X amount of teams from different whatever. Is it better if they went to, okay, hey, you have an East and a West?
Better for who?
There. Right. That's what I'm exactly.
I think the person that holds the most negotiating power are the NFL, the networks, the ESPNs, the Foxes, the CBSs, the NBC sports networks, the Big Ten network, which is part of Fox. They're the ones I think who hold all the chips. Even in the grand scheme of things, when it gets to the NCAA tournament, the money that brings in,
oh man,
isn't even close to the small football playoffs. And that's 68 teams over a lot of time. It baffles me how a handful of teams can make, in football, head and shoulders money, way more money above a whole 68 team tournament. It's really crazy. If you think about it.
Yeah.
To me, anyway, and I probably am looking at it wrong because somebody's out there going, you don't know, whatever.
I think the more the better. I think it needs to stay in the 4 or 5 range. I don't think that's smart for the sport, for college sports to go down, because then the variety's gone. You know, then your TV deals takes away half the country and things. So the best thing about these deals that these Big Ten gets with Fox, and then the SEC with ESPN, you know, and then CBS can step in with whoever, and obviously could go wherever. Even TNT, TBS needs to step in and start grabbing some of these. But if you put everybody in 2 or 3 conferences because they're like, okay, we're going to get left out, then the TV people are like, I have less conferences to sign, which makes it more money for us. So I think in the grand scheme of things for college sports, the more the merrier. There's so many colleges out there that you need to keep that broad. We can't shove everybody into 3 30-team conferences and say, okay, here's our Power 3. Everybody else is, you know, playoffs.
When you have $1 billion of revenue, tradition doesn't mean anything.
Right.
History doesn't mean anything. And I bring that up because after 81 years, the Southwest Conference folded. And at the end, all the teams were fighting. All the teams wanted the biggest piece of pie. All the teams wanted the spotlight for, I will say, primetime TV viewership, because the primetime games give you better chances at recruiting. And all these things build up to money. You win more, you go to a better bowl game, you win more money. You go to a better bowl game, you get to the college football playoffs, you win more money. Your basketball team gets to the tournament, you get more recruits, you get more money. You get to the Final Four, you get more money, you get better recruits. And the one common thread through all that is more money.
Oh, right.
More money.
Yeah.
So again, I don't think this conference realignment thing will stop. It might pause for a decade or two.
Until the contract runs out. Yeah.
Yeah, and then who has the better negotiator? Who's
And
a better used car salesman?
so what's funny is,
Wait, we're a family of 5. Why do I need a 2-seater? It gets great gas mileage. Oh,
Right.
yeah, great idea. Let's buy it.
yeah. So what I think is funny, I started thinking of this last night, all on my own. I know, shocker. Everybody's upset at the transfer portal for these players that just go, my coach left, I'm out. My family's over here, I got to go. I need to look after my whatever. And these players are jumping pretty much because they don't want competition or they don't like that they're not starting. This is no different. This is just the equivalent of a player's portal. When the TV contract starts to run out, and if that team is not happy with the pie they're getting or how they're winning in that conference, they can go wherever they want, right? Again, there's no rules. College sports can't say, NCAA can't say, no, you have to stay here. There is none of that. So this is no different than a school, by the way, getting mad at kids leaving in the portal, doing the exact same thing, just moving your whole school to a different conference for whatever reason. Yes, and money driven. Well, that player's probably money driven if there's more NIL money at another school. So now these coaches and ADs and all them might want to sit behind the mic and not say a whole lot because these schools aren't doing any different when they realign and try to say it's for the betterment. No, it's for your pocketbook.
And it's always the top schools that benefit the most because the 4 schools left behind, like you mentioned earlier in the Pac-12, have been largely inconsequential in the grand scheme of college basketball over the last decade.
And football.
Yeah, Stanford's last trip to the men's NCAA tournament was in 2014, Cal 2016, and had 5 20-loss seasons. Oregon State had a miracle run in 21, but has really been kind of irrelevant.
Stanford has volleyball. But
Stanford, right.
Yep.
Stanford has volleyball.
I'd love to see it. That's what I would love to see them. But, yep. No, you're right. That's what I'm saying is it's the big schools that, oh, wait, let us do this. And then, like I said, last week.
Well, the fallout has already happened. What's the kid from Washington State that committed? They had a top 150 recruit that decommitted because they're no longer in a league.
Right. And you almost have to because you're like, dude, I might not get a single game on TV. Well, I don't know what Washington State's games are, who they're playing, but yeah, he might not get or maybe get a single game where he's seen, outside of local television.
So I mentioned Mountain West. So the Mountain West has had 4 tournament bids in consecutive years, sent San Diego State to the title run or title game in 23. So if you're one of those teams left in the Pac-12, you have to look at the Mountain West, right?
That's my thought. You have solid teams out there, not great. Boise's out there. You got the academies out there. I think.
But none of them are good enough to be independents.
No.
I don't think they are. I don't think they're a UConn. I don't think they're at a Notre Dame across all sports.
Yeah.
They're not that level.
And when you're independent, again, the scheduling conflict is going to be huge here soon because even look at when they're trying to get Nebraska scheduled for coming up, who do you get out of conference when you have to have so many conference games now? So does college football bend a little bit and like, hey, we need to add another week to the schedule? We added week 0. Or is it week 1? No, it's still 0 for whatever reason, even though it's week 1. So you're adding another week anyway. And I get it. I know there's finals and they all talk about it. And that's why there's a month off before you play a bowl game and all that good crap. It's going to be a change in the landscape pretty soon to where college football is, pretty much there won't only be any out-of-conference games. Everybody's going to play in conference, and then you won't see the other teams until you get to a bowl game.
Now, you had mentioned the NCAA transfer portal. I read an article recently how they've been denying some 2-time transfers recently. Kind of an update to their policy, or they're sticking to their guns, I should say, because there have been a couple of players that have transferred twice, and then they have appealed the ability to play immediately and not have to sit out a year. So, again, with all these conference realignments, all these coaches changing, all of this is happening real time. And sometimes the kids are left going, man, I came here because I wanted to play against this team in this conference or for this coach. And the NCAA still holds the power over these kids.
Over the kids, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't do anything for the school. So, yeah, you imagine that you already transferred twice, and then USC transfers out, and now you're stuck with that Washington State, and you're like, I can't even transfer now. Unless they add it, say, hey, if a conference realigns or collapses, you get another free pass to transfer. I don't know.
But go ahead.
Yeah, it's just unforeseen territory. I don't think anyone saw. There was a lot of talk, right, between the Pac-12 and Big 12, who was going to dissolve out, who was going to be left with no team standing, and it looks like it's going to be the Pac-12, but I don't think anyone saw it this soon. The writing should have been on the wall when the TV contract was coming up, and they're talking with Apple TV as with their this is what we're going to put forth. I'm just confused on where the Pac-12 is going to try to think it was going to keep these teams with such a I can't even say mediocre, way below average TV contract compared to what these other conferences were getting. So again, the writing should have been on the wall, and NCAA and them should have been way ahead of this.
Again, it's breeding more competition for more dollars, and it could create new rivalries. I kind of enjoy seeing all this movement around. We get to see new teams. When I was younger, I was really sad to see the rivalry between us and Oklahoma stop. But with the Big Ten, with the volleyball level of athletes across all those schools in the Big Ten, it's really fun to see all this new competition that the Big Eight didn't have. Again, pros and cons on both sides. All boils down to who has the most money.
Oh, well, where they can make the most money. Yeah. And again, these teams coming in aren't going to be getting the top dollar, but in a couple of years, they'll be up there. And I just think when the Big Ten pitches, hey, we're going to have Ohio State, USC, Michigan, Nebraska, UCLA, Penn State on games coming up, that whatever channel, Fox, NBC, ESPN, or whatever, be like, oh my gosh, dude, these some marquee matchups that are huge, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and I think the next contract, and that somebody was talking about, I don't know if it was you, does a pot get smaller the more teams there are? But I think when you have these matchups that you're talking about with these new teams and new era of new rivalries formed, I think the revenue goes up when they go to sign them again. The Big Ten sells like, dude, we got 9 teams, by the way, that are in the top 25. You're going to have marquee matchups almost week in and week out, So I don't think the water gets diluted. I don't think the 80 million revenue goes down from here. I think it just goes up. And through all the sports, when it comes volleyball, when you've got the UCLA, USCs now, and basketball, the Big Ten is going to rival. I don't know about rival. Big 12 is pretty strong, but now they have a chance, right?
It makes me wonder through all these negotiations when they brought on teams, if they used a Mike Ditka quote, hey, if you're not in the parade, you watch the parade. That's life. Do you want to be in our league and be in the parade, or do you want to watch the parade from that league over there?
Yep.
Is that what you want to do? You want to be in that conference? I don't know.
You want to watch me on TV while you're not on TV?
Yeah.
Yep, that's the one.
We're going to switch gears. We're going to switch over to the NFL. The NFL has a huge slate of preseason games starting tonight, and there's 2 games, Texans and Patriots, Vikings and Seahawks, the later game at 9. Friday, full slate of games. Saturday, you have 6 games, and then Sunday, you have 2 games.
Yeah, Friday and Saturday, 6. Today and Sunday will be 2 and 2. And it's finally, it was a week ahead last week, right? But it's finally here. And
you were so excited. You're just like, it has to be this week. Right. It has to be this week. It has to be this week.
It was, right. And so to make it even matters worse, I'll just put myself on the bus here. We're sitting at lunch on Tuesday, and we're eating and everything, and I'm getting my phone on and everything. I was like, why can't I find this game? And he goes, what do you mean? He goes, I said, there's a preseason game on. I know it's on TV, and I'm scrolling. It's Tuesday. And I went, Oh, wait, it's not till Thursday. It's only Tuesday. I have no idea.
The day of the week starts with a T, so it has to be today.
Right. I didn't even work 6 days, so I don't know why my week was messed up. But anyway, yeah, so I'm really excited for tonight, where I definitely be watching. I know majority of this is week 1, so those who follow, a lot of starters aren't going to play. I don't see Cousins playing tonight. I'd be really surprised if Geno Smith plays tonight. We will see C.J. Stroud. I've been trying to look to see what their game plan on him is. If I'm coaching the Texans, he plays the entire second half. I wouldn't have him play the first half. I'd have him play the entire second half. The Patriots, Mac Jones will get some. It depends on where Belichick thinks he's at as far as how much. But yeah, first week, we won't get a whole lot of the starters. Next week, you'll see majority of the big dogs play a quarter, maybe a half, depending on their celebrity status. But tonight, I'd like to see C.J. Stroud and the Texans and see how they go. And then the Vikings Seahawks, it's a later game, but I really don't have anyone. They didn't make any mixes to have to see. It's mostly for fan base to see where their draft picks land or how they play.
The preseason for me is always a little, I don't know. It's not the season. For me, it's tough to watch. I might watch some replay. I might read about it, but it's not the full season. And James and I talked about that before the start of the show coming up, like what are we going to talk about? And he's like, oh, we got to talk about preseason. I'm like, you know what? I'll just be right up front. I don't care about preseason. I really don't. It doesn't matter. But it does. It does matter. If you have traction to get on the team and you have to perform in preseason, and you have to make it look good for the coaches. Because if you don't, you're getting cut, you're getting sent home, you're getting sent to the practice squad, or you're getting forgotten.
Yeah. I mean, you're auditioning for other teams. Every team you play against is watching you. So if you're like, hey, man, I got 3 guys ahead of me, 2 of them are all pro, chances of me making this roster are slim to none, but you still ball out because other teams are going to have an injury or they're going to have an issue. Let's take the New York Jets. You guys have seen it right now. Rodgers is frustrated because O-line didn't play what it was up to against the Carolina joint practice. You can be an offensive tackle, young guy, and balling out for Carolina on the 3rd or 4th string, and the Jets are like, dude, we need to trade for him. We need to get him over here because our guys aren't cutting it. So, I mean, stuff like that happens all the time to where the preseason comes to an end and you'll see, they'll release certain, they got to cut the roster down to 53. Well, it's technically 60, but we'll say 53 because of all the new rules. But anyway, you only protect so many players and then some of them are left out and teams will grab. So, yeah, I think you're right. It's hard to watch when you're not a fan of that team. So, like you, I'll watch C.J. Stroud when he's in, and I'll change the channel when they're on defense, right? Same thing when the Cowboys, though, I want to see that 2nd and 3rd string linebacker that comes in. Overshown from Texas, I like to see how he goes, see if he pushes Jabril Cox. Secondary is going to be interesting. They got rid of Brown. You have the guy, oh my goodness, he just left me. Got Diggs on one side and the other guy that they picked up as a free agent on the other side. So corners going to be locked down. Safeties, So anyway, yeah, with your teams, with Minnesota, how's their running game look? No Dalvin Cook, by the way, hasn't signed with anyone. Kareem Hunt visited the Saints and the Colts, left without a contract from either team. We're getting, again, preseason's here. These guys have not signed, so it's going to be interesting where they go. How's Cousins go with a different kind of run game? Does the Bills and their minor adjustments work? So, yeah, if it's your team, you watch, and the big thing you're trying to watch for is, does your team have depth?
I did notice that in some of the upcoming preseason games that you do have some people trying to either win a starting spot or that coveted backup. So the Bucks in the upcoming weeks, you're going to start Baker Mayfield on Friday. And then next week, Kyle Trask is going to get a start. So you don't get to see a whole lot. You're going to see what they're going to do. They're going to put them in a very specific situation with specific plays to see how they react. and then they're going to make a judgment on that.
Yeah, and for people wondering, why is Daryl saying that Baker's not the guy in the Bucks and you got this trash guy coming in and pushing him? Baker's been a turnover machine. Throughout the practices, they said just this last week, numerous picks, numerous interceptions within practices. It's not like one series, he's got one here and there. It's throughout the day, 5 to 7 a day he's throwing. Now, he could be trying throws he shouldn't be trying, but that doesn't help anyone. So anyway, yeah, it's either he doesn't know the offense or this timing's that off with the receivers, but he hasn't been what they're hoped for. So yeah, they got to look for a plan B.
Yeah, so you mentioned frustration, and it was Rodgers' frustration. For the Bucks, I think they're frustrated in, we spent millions on bringing this guy in.
Right. And we thought he was going to be day one starter.
And you've let us down in practice, bud. What's going on? So frustration, I think, is showing, and I'm laughing because the Jets' frustration, I think, has only started. And I thought about this last year when they decided to get Aaron Rodgers. He's really going to miss that Green Bay line. Every quarterback that the Jets have had in there needed to be very mobile to not get their head taken off because their offensive line is not the best. Not the best at all.
No.
So when Zach Wilson had a breakout game, he was very mobile in doing that last season.
Yeah.
So Aaron Rodgers has lost a step. He's 40, 38, 39, somewhere in there.
Up 30. Yeah, up 30s. Yeah, I think he's 38.
Okay.
Yep.
Dude, I hope you have your conditioning in because you're going to need it. You're going to be running for your life. If you're frustrated in practice against the Carolina Panthers in practice, it's not even game speed.
Right. Yeah, and that, was a thing going in. And that's why I'm so surprised when all these people are handing them not only the division, but freaking the AFC. And I'm like, one, you still have to play Cincinnati. Obviously, we talked about our picks earlier this season, right? The Kansas City, Buffalo, and Cincinnati's. You got to get past them to begin with. And now you can add Baltimore in there. And anyway, and you have an O-line problem. Everyone knows you have an O-line problem. By the way, it's preseason week 1, and you still have an O-line problem. You played Cleveland in the Hall of Fame game, and you got out quickly, 16 points right away, and then you blew it at the end because you had an O-line problem that you couldn't run the clock out or keep the ball long enough so they couldn't score and win. So, yeah, it's interesting. But talking about Aaron Rodgers, how about early MVP for you? Obviously, we know it has to be a quarterback, right? Because that's who wins it all.
What? 1 second. Before we get to MVP talk, you mentioned problems. And I think there's a team out there that still has continued problems. And it manifested to me this week in the media when Riviera made comments about Bieniemy. And it's kind of blown up, and now he's trying to retract them. Bieniemy goes in there with all this fire, and he's trying to get his team ready, and he's going there trying to motivate these guys. And Riviera makes this comment about, well, our guys really don't know what to do with all this. He might be a little too motivated with too much energy. I don't think the problem is Bieniemy. I think the problem is Riviera.
No, I think it's the team culture.
But why, as the coach, would you come out and say that about your own assistant coach who's trying to motivate your team, man? And I understand why you walked it back, but you've been in the league for a while, dude. Well, go in with a better statement. So, again, it's a lot of problems Washington still has.
Right. So I'm saying culture because the players aren't used to it, because Rivera's not used to it. They're all like, whoa, wait a minute. What's all this fire? Dude, you've been 3rd and 4th in a division for several years. You're underachieved, and then you overachieve in a couple games. Yeah, so you have a guy coming in here, and he's like, whoa. No wonder why you guys can't score more than 7 points a game. What are you doing? So, yeah, you're right. Rivera put his foot in his mouth and like, oh, that sends a wrong message to the fans that we're mad at a guy motivating us.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge backtrack. But for the players, and the only reason they went to Rivera about it is because the players are talking about it also.
Yeah, they're too soft.
Right. So, again, it goes from a culture at a team. Yeah, Rivera obviously should have been like, hey, you know what? This is what we need. We need a big jump start. We're not a great offensive team. We're really good. They are great defensively. which Rivera, by the way, defensive coach. But yeah, offensively, they're terrible. So he should have been out. Hey, you know what? He's bringing in this fire. We're going to have to get ready for it. It's motivating. We need to move. I have no idea why he went the route he went. I guess sided with the players. Yeah, bad choice. But I think it brings out the team culture and why Washington has been at the bottom and picked, I think, to be fourth again in that division.
And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Riviera went in there with the best of intentions, and he should have said and wanted to say, I think Eric Bieniemy has an amazing fire and trying to instill in that fire into our players. And instead it came out sounding like he thought his players were soft and Bieniemy's too demanding. Whatever is correct, whatever is wrong, I still think, like you said, they will be third or fourth, potentially last if they don't figure it out and work together.
Yeah, and this week, if you're a fan of your team and you watch them, it'll show you that either they're making strides or you're in for a repeat of last year or the year before trending. So, again, I mean, it's a big time. Houston can show out against the Patriots. The Patriots, another one, I think there's a lot of underlying issues in the Patriot system. They didn't bring Mac Jones, any great wide receiver, you know. They're trying to rehash what they did last year. Got an offensive coordinator now, but still, he doesn't have the greatest targets to throw to.
How soon before Belichick hangs it up?
Not. I think it's 3 to 5 years. I don't think it's a 1 or 2 season thing. I think after this year, Mac Jones won't get another. I think he'll be gone if he doesn't win. They'll put it all on Mac Jones. But it's just like when Tom Brady was there. He had Randy Moss once, and they won. They went undefeated and lost in the Super Bowl, right? But you gave him a legit weapon in Randy Moss, and I'm not counting out the tight ends. They just don't stretch the field. So I don't know. I'm not a big believer in Mac Jones to begin with, but how would you know if you don't give him a legit receiver to throw to?
That's
right?
That's why I brought up how long is Belichick there? Because I don't think he has keyed in on finding the right talent as of late. I'm sure he's still a good coach, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But he used to be really good at finding talent, and I don't know if that was luck through the years of getting the right talent there, but it's not getting him wins currently.
I think it's me. What I look at is when Brady was there, those two were so much on the same page. For whatever reason, they clicked. Peanut butter and jelly blended well, where Tom understood exactly what he wanted to do with even though he's a defensive guy, exactly what he wanted offensively from him. So he took mediocre to no-name wide receivers, nickel and dime people all the way down the field. If we settle for a field goal, that's fine. If we got 4 field goals in a row, that's fine. We slid in with a touchdown to a tight end, great. But his job was to protect the ball, get first downs, and keep pinning the other team deep, right? You at least have to get to midfield before you punt. And I think Brady and him understood to where he's like, I think Belichick fell in that thing, like, I don't need great offensive weapons because all I need to do is nickel and dime people and get whatever points I get. My defense is going to play great.
He didn't need great people because he had one great person that could do it all. He doesn't have any great people right now. Okay, you mentioned Randy Moss, great. Tom Brady, great. Gronkowski, great. They had great running backs.
I would say above average, but yeah.
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 They all bought into his system, and now he has average players.
Yes, and that's what I'm getting at is he got caught up on the whole, I got average players, and I can just put a quarterback back there.
No.
I don't think he considered Tom Brady great. I think he's like, this is my system making Tom Brady great. Remember the whole talk was, can Brady win without Belichick, or does Belichick win without Tom Brady? Well, we saw it. Tom Brady went to Tampa, played with really, really good wide receivers. They won a Super Bowl, and Bill hasn't got there yet. So Bill needs to realize this isn't going to work going forward unless I find the next great something. So, yeah, I just think he has not realized that you can't pay the defense and not pay the offense.
Very competitive guy. Very competitive, which brings me to a Bo Jackson quote. If my mother put on a helmet and shoulder pads and a uniform that wasn't the same as the one I was wearing, I'd run over if she was in the way. And I love my mother. And that gets to the heart of competition. So, yeah, Bill Belichick is very competitive. I just think his eye for spotting talent isn't there, or they got lucky with spotting talent in previous years in some trades. That's why I asked the question, hey, how long does Belichick have left? Okay, you had mentioned NFL MVPs. And who is my pick for this year's potential MVP? So I look back the last 22 years. The last 22 years, we have had 4 running backs. 2000, Marshall Faulk. 2006, LaDainian Tomlinson. Oh, I skipped a year. 2005, Sean Alexander. And then Adrian Peterson, when he was with the Vikings, was the last running back to win the MVP. Other than that, all quarterbacks. Every last
Fact.
one.
Yeah. So, yeah, when they talk MVP, I just, you just figure which quarterback's going to have a really good season. Not necessarily a Super Bowl winning season, but a really good season, because no matter what, unless a running back has 2,000 yards, they're not even in the vote, right? And that's only gets them in the vote. That usually finishes them third or fourth in voting behind a quarterback. So, yeah.
Yeah, the last 5 years, Mahomes has won it twice, Aaron Rodgers has won it twice, and then Lamar Jackson has won it once. I would love to see Lamar Jackson play the same way he did in 2019 when he won the award, but he's not there. And fighting with his team or not being on the same page with his team isn't helping. Also, being hurt a little bit doesn't help. But how can you not, before they even start playing, how can you not just say Patrick Mahomes or Allen with the Bills?
Yeah.
Before they even start playing, or Burrow. I don't know how Burrow didn't win MVP the year that they
took him a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I agree.
I
agree.
That blows my mind.
Yeah.
You have a quarterback that got sacked so many times, and he still figured out a way to win. And you don't give him the MVP?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Talking about a team that had offensive line issues, and yet he made it work all the way to the Super Bowl. He did, right? Yeah, that was a lot him. The running game is very mediocre, and he looked down the barrel, however they want to say it, stood in there, took hit after hit. Yeah.
Okay, so those are my top 3 picks. Lamar Jackson, if he can figure it out, stop bickering with his management, coaches, offensive coordinator, whatever. Then Burrows, and then my top 2 tie, Allen for the Bills and Mahomes for the Chiefs. Those before the season starts, those are the guys that have the most pressure on them and the best teams around them to get it done.
Yep.
And Lamar Jackson, I threw in there because he really, I don't know, his team and the chemistry right now. Whew, that's a long shot.
Yeah. I think Lamar Jackson, he's on my list. I think he's going to have a heck of a season. And I don't disagree that all those quarterbacks in the AFC are top above. The NFC, I mean, you pretty much have Dak and Kirk Cousins, and then you have everybody else. In my opinion, I'm not a big fan of the Jalen Hurts. I don't think he's going to be there. I do have Dak on the list. For me, number 1, Lamar Jackson. A lot for what you're saying besides the not getting along with the team thing. For me, he's going to prove that the contract he's held out for, he's worth it. He's coming back from an injury. And he also wants to show that, if I was playing last year, we would have beat Cincinnati and went on in the playoffs, and they almost beat him without him. So huge chip on his shoulder. I think that's the biggest thing I want to look at is he plays with this season will be a big chip on his shoulder of I'm going to prove everyone wrong. I've had Baltimore. I still have Baltimore winning that division, and he's going to be a huge part of it. And then the other 2, you have Mahomes and Josh Allen. I can't argue with. In Dallas, I think McCarthy running that offense, and with the new weapon with Brandon Cooks, Pollard in the backfield, that there's actually a new running game that they're going to have to worry about. I take away the interceptions, and if it works, Dak's going to have a 25-5 season. I can see easily 4,500 yards. And if they put the wins together, not only will he be the front runner for NFC as far as Pro Bowl, but he will be in that talk for the thing. So I'll go Lamar, Josh Allen, Mahomes sitting at number 2, and then I'll go Dak for number 3.
An honorable mention, I'll have Justin Herbert, because I think that Kellen Moore going over to the Chargers will help him a lot.
Yep. And if you look at his numbers, first 3 years in the season, his career, he has surpassed many people way ahead of him. Granted, it's a new passing league, blah, 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 but another one that doesn't have much of an O-line, very weak running game. It's almost like Burrow in San Diego. He's an uber talent that just needs a little bit of help to get him there. Mostly on the defensive side would help a lot, but give him a little bit on that left tackle, protect his blind side, and give him a chance to throw the ball. Yeah. Herbert and the Chargers with Kellen Moore could surprise Kansas City and take the West.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. So, again, NFL preseason, huge. Thursday, you got 2 games. Friday.
Tonight.
Thursday. Yep, that's tonight. Friday, my Broncos are going to the Cardinals. We'll see what happens there. I don't know. I don't know if Sean Payton's the answer for that. We'll see. And then Saturday, again, huge slate. Your Cowboys are playing the Jaguars at 4.
Yep. And you got Eagles and Ravens also going to be on the NFL Network. Jalen Hurts and Lamar won't play, but you're looking at the depth on those 2 teams. I'm mainly looking at the backup quarterbacks because both those are mobile quarterbacks that could get hurt. How do their backups look? So when you're watching Ravens, Eagles, check that out. And Bears are getting a lot of talk right now on that MVP thing. What I forgot to bring up is the front runner in Vegas. Do you want to take a guess who's getting the most money put down on them for the MVP? And I'll narrow it down to the NFC so you don't mention any of the names that we have mentioned.
Oh, it's got to be Justin Fields because you just talked about the Bears.
Good call. Hey, you picked up on that. Well played.
I don't see that happening.
I don't either. And nothing against the Bears. And the only thing I could think of are the odds are so great for him, or like big. So if you bet $1, you win 1,000. Is my only guess that they're putting it down on Justin Fields.
That's the reverse psychology of Vegas going, hey, give me all your money. Thanks, you loser.
Right. Yeah.
Moving on. Let's hit your today in sports.
It was still a lot of Olympic stuff, which is we love the Olympics. It's just not that, there's just none going on. But so I went back. We got the U.S. Olympic team this year, today, 1984, pre-Dream Team. The U.S. beat Spain 96-65. And oh, by the way, there was 3 future Dream Teamers on that team. Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, and Chris Mullin were all on that team as, obviously, college athletes. They won it in Los Angeles. The Olympics were in 1984. A huge win, obviously a 31-point win for us in 1984. And then we talk about these contracts. So Ohtani's going to be coming out, getting a new contract in baseball. I forget who just signed a $300 million contract in baseball, 10 years. Anyway, in 1997, Greg Maddux for the Braves signed a record at the time, 5 years, $57 million. And that was a brand new record in baseball, opening up doors. 5 years, $57 million. And everybody was losing their mind about Greg Maddux and all this money he was getting. By the way, great, great pitcher. An actual pitcher. I'm not blowing it by you, but you're going to have to guess where this ball is coming because my fastball is 87. So I have to be smarter than you are. And majority of the time, he really was. So that was it. I mean, like I said, it was not a whole lot to choose from today.
Any other final thoughts?
No, it's National S'mores Day. I know it's not quite fire pit weather.
Sure it is.
But if you got an evening and
10
you're
o'clock,
watching
it
football,
actually is nice.
Yeah, throw the TV outside, make up some s'mores while you're watching the football.
One more quote. This is for you Washington Commanders football team, who I think is a little soft, that Riviera pointed out and then tried to walk it back. Well, I didn't mean my team was soft. Yeah, you did. And for the UNL football team who needs to get on the winning track, Vince Lombardi, the harder you work, the harder it is to surrender. So, Washington Commanders, when you lose to James's Cowboys, remember that you didn't work hard enough for it.
Yeah, you're right. Because if you're putting in the work, you're not going to want to give up. But yeah, I got you.
Sports fans, thanks again for listening to Blue Collar Sports Talk. I'm Daryl.
See ya.
That's James. Go watch some sports.